Coming up on Morning Live, tired drivers cause collisions every day. Hear why fatigue takes just minutes to make your car veer off the road.
Plus,
many of us do every day is get behind the wheel, but it's estimated 10 to 20% of all collisions are caused by people driving tired. It can even be as dangerous as having a drink before getting behind the wheel.
Former detective Rebecca Mason meets a mum whose son was killed after the car's driver was believed to have fallen asleep, and discovers how fatigue affects reaction times.
As a former police officer, I've attended lots of car crashes over the years. And 3 months ago, I was involved in one myself. A vehicle travelling in the opposite direction swerved into my lane and hit me head on. I don't really recall much about the crash. I just remember looking down, seeing glass everywhere, and my vehicle was pointing in the other direction. The driver of the other vehicle suffered a medical episode behind the wheel, and it really struck me as to how vulnerable we are out on the roads. It also made me realise how reckless avoidable causes of unsafe driving are, like drinking or using a mobile phone. Even tiredness, which drivers might not always see as such a big issue. In August 2022, Bridget Lucas's son Lawrence was killed when he was a passenger in a car that drove into oncoming traffic.
I've got some photos of my beautiful young man, forever 20. He was a bit of a character, always a charmer, always a joker.
Lawrence was travelling back from a music event in Oxfordshire with 4 friends.
The suspicion is that the driver fell asleep, so whether it was a microsleep or a full-on fast asleep, we will never know, but we think that's likely to have been the case.
Was everyone in the car killed as a result?
The driver died, Lawrence was the middle seat rear passenger, and the passenger behind the driver died, all instantly. The other 2 passengers walked away with barely a scratch. We think everyone was asleep at the time. The road conditions were good, it was a sunny day, but I don't think that they considered that tiredness was a factor.
There were no traces of alcohol or anything there?
No alcohol, no.
It's estimated that between 10 and 20% of all crashes are caused by driver fatigue. The driver of the vehicle, how do you feel towards him? And
nothing was intentional. There was probably an element of naivety, an element of lack of regard to risk, but certainly not intentional. I just have complete sadness for him, for his family, as I do for the other boy who lost his life, and also for the 2 boys who survived.
Bridget now campaigns with other families who've been through similar experiences for tighter rules for younger drivers.
I would like to see new drivers not being able to carry passengers for the first 6 months after passing. I think that's in everyone's best interest. We're not removing the privilege of driving from themselves. We're just protecting other road users.
I mean, if anyone was watching this thinking, when you get behind the wheel, if you're a bit sleepy, you can normally push through it, what would you say to those people?
It's just not worth it. This is what can happen. You can be involved in a catastrophic incident that can leave people dead, seriously injured, families grieving for the rest of their lives too.
Being tired behind the wheel can affect anyone, regardless of age or experience. Ashleigh Filtness is a professor at Loughborough University who specialises in road safety, with a focus on driver sleepiness.
So the actual being sleepy itself isn't a problem. Everybody should feel sleepy every day because everybody sleeps every day. But the problem is if you're experiencing sleepiness at the same time as you're doing something that's really safety critical, and for most of us, driving is the most safety critical task we'll do in a day.
Ashleigh uses a driving simulator as part of her research. And today, a member of the Morning Live production team is getting behind the wheel after just 4 hours sleep.
We want to measure what's going on in Luke's brain while he is driving. So we're putting some electrodes on to have a look.
And what do those electrodes do?
So if you think about your brain, it's like the electronic hub of your body. So every time you're thinking or you're trying to keep yourself, in this case, motivated to keep going with your sleepiness, your brain is going to be firing. And this causes really little electrical peaks inactivity.
What sort of data are you expecting?
I'm imagining that it's going to be harder and harder for him to keep his alertness going, and so his brain will start to relax and then move naturally towards sleep.
Luke drives down a simulated motorway for 30 minutes, and although he starts okay, it isn't long before he visibly seems to struggle. Next, he has to press a button when something appears on screen to test his reaction speed. A few days later, Luke does both tests again, after a full night's sleep. Ashleigh then compares the data.
What we're looking at here is how much weaving there was within the lane. So in the blue, when he was alert, he's maintaining his lane position pretty steadily. But when he was sleepy, he's struggling to maintain the vehicle position. So in this graph, what we're looking at is the brain activity. Towards the beginning of the drive, the brain activity that's going on is kind of similar. But then as we get a bit further into the drive and he's getting a greater pressure from that monotonous task, we're starting to see objective signs of that sleepiness in his brain activity as the orange line here departs from the blue one.
Ashleigh also has the results of Luke's reactions test.
So this is how quickly it was for him to press the button. So slower is worse, so higher is bad in this case. We can very clearly see here in the orange line, Luke has had 3 lapses while he's been undertaking this reaction time test.
The data all points towards tiredness having an impact on Luke's driving.
Now, it wasn't affected to a level that he crashed or that he had a full-on microsleep, but what we do see is that he's starting to have difficulty in maintaining his vehicle position. He feels sleepy, we can see that sleepiness in his brain, and when you give him a reaction time test, we're starting to see those lapses.
Last year, a study of UK drivers suggested 40% power through tiredness instead of pulling over to rest. But not only is driving tired dangerous, it's also against the law. Driving knowingly deprived of sleep or rest could be classified as dangerous or careless driving under the Road Traffic Act. My collision made me see that a short lapse in concentration can have serious consequences. Many of us may feel we can push through that long drive just to get to where we need to be, but no destination is more important than getting there safely.